Benjamin Franklin, the master of personal reinvention. If Benjamin Franklin were alive today, he would probably be a productivity influencer, a tech entrepreneur, and a personal development guru, all at the same time. This extraordinary man from the 18th century created a self-improvement system that remains a reference point for anyone who wants to maximize their potential. 1. The 13 Virtues System. At 20 years old, Franklin identified 13 virtues he wanted to develop: temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and humility. But here's the genius. He didn't try to work on them all at once. For 13 weeks, he focused on just one virtue at a time, carrying a small notebook where he recorded his daily slips. This system was born out of a humbling experience. A Quaker friend bluntly told Franklin, "Benjamin, you're unbearable. You always have to be right, always have the last word, and it's ruining your friendships." Instead of being offended, Franklin saw an opportunity for growth. He created a table with 13 columns, one for each virtue, and 7 rows, one for each day of the week. Each week, he focused intensely on a specific virtue, making a small black mark every time he failed. The goal was to have a clean week, without any black marks. The first virtue was temperance: eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation. Franklin found that when he controlled his eating and drinking, he had more mental energy to work on the other virtues. The second was silence: speak only what may benefit others or yourself, avoid trifling conversation. This was perhaps the hardest for Franklin, who loved to debate. But he realized that by speaking less, he learned more. The 13th virtue, humility, was later added at the suggestion of another Quaker friend: imitate Jesus and Socrates. Franklin later admitted he never fully mastered this virtue, but simply striving for it made him a better person. The most interesting part is that Franklin approached personal development like a scientific experiment. He collected data on himself, analyzed patterns, and adjusted methods. After a few months, he noticed that certain virtues reinforced each other. Order helped with industry, temperance facilitated tranquility. Franklin practiced this system intensively for 2 years, then reviewed it periodically for the rest of his life. At 78, he wrote, "Though I never arrived at the perfection I had been so ambitious of obtaining, I was, by the effort, a better and happier man than I otherwise should have been." Modern application. The genius of Franklin's system lies in its simplicity and focus. Instead of trying to change everything at once, as we often do with New Year's resolutions, he teaches us to isolate one area of improvement at a time. Implement the modern Franklin method. Choose 4 crucial habits you want to develop, not 13. Our lives are more fast-paced. Dedicate a full month to each habit, using a tracking app or simple notebook to record daily successes and failures. For example, a month 1, exercise for 30 minutes daily. A month 2, read 30 pages of nonfiction daily. A month 3, meditate for 10 minutes every morning. A month 4, go to bed before 10 p.m. Use Franklin's black mark rule. Don't punish yourself for failures, just record them. The goal isn't perfection, but awareness and gradual improvement. Franklin discovered that simply observing behaviors already begins to change them. Create your personal improvement council. Identify 2 to 3 close people who can give you honest feedback about your areas for development, just as the Quaker friend did for Franklin. Ask for specific feedback monthly. 2. Time is money, but knowledge is power. Franklin woke up at 5 a.m. and dedicated 2 hours to study before starting work. He mastered multiple fields: science, politics, business, writing, and diplomacy. But Franklin's genius wasn't just about waking up early. It was about how he structured his learning. He created what we'd now call an integrated learning system, where each new skill connected with and reinforced the others. For example, when he learned French at age 50 to become ambassador to France, he didn't just study grammar. He read scientific books in French, practiced writing diplomatic letters, and discussed scientific experiments with French intellectuals. One skill fed into another. Franklin developed what he called the method of intellectual immersion. When he wanted to master a subject, he surrounded himself with it completely for weeks. To learn to write better, he copied articles from great writers by hand, then tried to rewrite them from memory and compared his version to the original, identifying where his was inferior. He applied the same intensity to scientific experiments. When investigating electricity, he wasn't content to read European theories. He built equipment, conducted dangerous experiments, like the famous kite experiment, and corresponded with scientists worldwide. The result: his discoveries about electricity were foundational to modern science. Most impressive was how Franklin immediately turned theory into practical application. When he studied meteorology, he created the first weather map of America. When he learned about ocean currents, he improved navigation between America and Europe. When he investigated heat properties, he invented the Franklin stove, which heated homes with 50% less fuel. Franklin understood that knowledge without application is entertainment, not education. He said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." But for him, investment meant actively applying what he learned to solve real problems. His learning routine was religious. 5 to 7 a.m., study something completely new. 7 to 8 a.m., review existing knowledge. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., apply knowledge at work. 5 to 6 p.m., reflect on what he learned that day, writing insights in his journal. This structure ensured that he constantly expanded, reinforced, and applied knowledge. Modern application. Franklin teaches us that in the knowledge economy, your ability to keep learning determines your ability to stay relevant. But effective learning requires a system, not just intention. Implement the Franklin learning routine. Dedicate 1 hour in the morning to high-priority learning, the most important skill for your career over the next 2 years. Use the Franklin immersion method. For 30 days, study only this topic through multiple sources: books, podcasts, courses, conversations with experts. Apply the immediate application rule. For every concept you learn, find a way to apply it practically within 48 hours. Read about negotiation. Negotiate something small. Studied marketing. Launch a small test. Learned programming. Build a simple project. Use the Franklin connection system. Whenever you learn something new, ask yourself, how does this connect with what I already know? And how can I combine this with other skills? Franklin mastered multiple fields because he saw connections others missed. Keep an insight journal like Franklin did. At the end of each day, write down one key lesson you learned and how you plan to apply it tomorrow. This simple practice dramatically accelerates retention and application of knowledge. 3. Networking was his superpower. Franklin founded America's first debate club, the Junto Society, where entrepreneurs and intellectuals met weekly to discuss philosophy, politics, and business. From this network emerged the first public library, the first volunteer fire department, and the first university in Philadelphia. But Franklin didn't see networking as exchanging business cards or doing small mutual favors. For him, networking was about creating ecosystems of mutual value where everyone grew together. The Junto Society had specific rules Franklin created. Each member had to bring an intriguing question for discussion, share useful knowledge without expecting immediate return, and help other members whenever possible. Self-promotion or direct sales were not allowed. What made this group extraordinary was its intentional diversity. Franklin included craftsmen, merchants, philosophers, doctors, and writers, people who normally wouldn't interact. He understood that innovation happens at the intersection of different perspectives. From this network, transformative projects for Philadelphia emerged. When someone mentioned that books were expensive and rare, they created America's first lending library, where members pooled money to buy books for collective use. When they discussed urban fires, They organized the first volunteer fire department. When they debated education, they founded the University of Pennsylvania. Franklin applied the same principle in international correspondence. He maintained relationships with scientists, philosophers, and politicians across Europe and America. But he always offered value first, sharing scientific discoveries, sending American plants to European gardens, translating important texts. When he needed French support during the American Revolution, Franklin didn't show up as a stranger asking for favors. He came as a respected friend who had cultivated relationships for decades. The French weren't just supporting America, they were supporting Benjamin Franklin. Franklin's principle was simple: help others get what they want, and you will eventually get what you want. But he did this genuinely, without expecting immediate return. Franklin also understood that networking isn't just about knowing important people, but about connecting important people with each other. He frequently introduced people in his network to one another, creating new partnerships and collaborations. This made him indispensable, not just as a contact, but as a connector. Modern application. In an era of superficial social media connections and constant self-promotion, Franklin teaches us that true networking is about creating genuine value for others, not extracting value from them. Implement the Junto Society model. Create or join a small group, 6 to 8 people, that meets monthly to discuss topics important to your careers. Set Franklin rules. Each person brings an interesting question, shares useful knowledge, and commits to helping other members. Use the value-first strategy. Before asking for any favor or making any request, offer something valuable: a helpful introduction, a relevant article, an interesting opportunity. Franklin shows us that those who give first receive more later. Apply the connector principle. Whenever you meet two people who should know each other, make the introduction. Become known as someone who connects interesting people. This makes you valuable to your entire network. Practice long-term networking. Choose 12 important people for your career and send each one a helpful message, an interesting article, congratulations on an achievement, an insightful question, once a month. In a year, you will have significantly strengthened these relationships. Develop your own Franklin correspondence. Maintain regular contact with interesting people through ideas and insights, not just small talk. Franklin teaches us that deep relationships are based on intellectual exchange, not just personal rapport. Benjamin Franklin proves that genius is not a natural gift, but the result of method, discipline, and insatiable curiosity. He teaches us that we all have the potential for multiple reinventions throughout life. As he said, either you find a way or you make one.